So when I started in this campaign back in January, this was the message I wanted to take to people. And I thought it was an opportune moment. We had the Tea Party out there on the right. Well, first we should start with the crisis, shouldn't we? We have this terrible economic crisis where we have a Great Depression in the United States today. I think we should use that term. This is the first Great Depression of the 20th century. This is people who have an unemployment rate of 10% officially, 20% really, double that in the African American and Latino communities. People can't get jobs. The foreclosure crisis is continuing to unravel. And we could see that. We could see that happening when I started 9 months ago. It started a couple of years ago. I didn't see any way for them to get out of it. And what answers were they being offered? They were the answers of the Tea Party. And what was the Tea Party going to do? The Tea Party first, I get a kick out of this in a way because it's so preposterous. They say, we want to go back to the world of the Founding Fathers and the Constitution. You want to go, wasn't that the world of slavery? Yeah. Wasn't that the world of slavery? Wasn't that the world where women had no rights? Wasn't that the world where if you were a worker you had to own property to vote? You want to go back there? I don't think so. We're not going with you. Adios. And I think we have to say that, so when that Tea Party answered, and also what were they doing? They were out there scapegoating the immigrants, attacking immigrants who come to this country. They're scapegoating the LGBT community. They're scapegoating teachers. The teachers who are, apparently, if you listen to the right wing, ruining this country. One group after another that's being attacked rather than focus on the real crisis. So it seemed to me this was an important moment to be a candidate and to propose a different alternative of a different kind of society, a socialist society. And then, of course, the attack on Obama raised all the questions of socialism. Because they come out and they say, look at this Obama, he's a socialist. Now, to those in this room, that sounds pretty preposterous. Because we watched Obama giving money to the banks. And we all think, no, we're socialists. We take the money from the banks. Right? We all know the song, right? The banks are made of marble with guard at every door. And the vaults are stuffed with silver that the workers sweated for. And we'll take that. We know that song. So this seemed preposterous to us. But it was a great thing that it has happened in a way. That is, understanding how right-wing the Tea Party is. This is the first time in my life that there is a great debate about what is socialism in American society. I can tell you this hasn't taken place I became an activist in the late 1960s or mid-1960s, and I have not ever seen anything like this. And it's interesting because part of what has happened is young people when I was first getting my petitions, I'd be handing out a petition, I'd say, I'm a candidate, and they'd start to turn away when I said I'm a candidate. And I'd say, but I'm a socialist. And they go, oh, that's cool. And I'm not saying all the young people were like that, but there were enough young people out there, and they weren't members of the ISO or Solidarity, the Socialist Party. They were young people who had self-identified as socialism. I think because people said, well, if you believe that you are entitled to health care, you must be a socialist. If you believe you're entitled to an education, you must be a socialist. If you think you need a job with a living wage, you must be a socialist. Well, shit, I'm a socialist then. I think that a lot of these young people who say this, I think that their definition of socialism may not be the same as ours. They may not have thought about it as deeply as some in this room have. But I think these people, at least their conception of socialism is that socialism means to them a caring society. Let's start with that. I'm happy to start with that. A society of solidarity, a society where we take care of each other, let's start with that. So because of those things, the crisis, the growth of the Tea Party movement, the attack on Obama, which opened the debate about socialism, I thought it was an opportune moment. And so I've been out in Ohio, and one thing about a political campaign, I'd never run for office. I think we have too little experience with this on the left, in the organized revolutionary left in this country, and we ought to think more about this, the possibility of running for office, what it means. It means that I've been able to go out and talk to thousands of people in Ohio, one-on-one, give them a piece of literature, have a brief conversation, have a long conversation, sit at a table with them at a picnic, or sit at a table with them at a meeting. I've talked to thousands of people about socialism to one degree or another. 10,000 people have gone to the website and spent some time to download something on the website and see what this socialist campaign is about. We have built committees supporting this in Toledo and Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati and on 5 or 6 college campuses. We're in a position to bring together a bunch of college students in Ohio around this campaign. So, and what do I do when I talk to these people? I tell them what some of the things you've heard here tonight in greater detail and better than I could have said them. That is, I talk to them about what's happening with the economy. And what happened with the economy, the continuity between Bush and Obama is remarkable. The continuity of saving the banks. They went out and saved the banks, but they didn't save us. They didn't save our homes. The foreclosures continue, and as you know, it's unraveling and may continue to unravel in unforeseeable and perhaps worse ways. They say they saved the auto companies. Well, I have friends who are auto workers. They closed down. They continued to close down plants. They got rid of auto workers. They came to the auto workers and asked for bigger health contributions. They're going to the auto parts plants. They're demanding wage cuts. Some of them as deep as 50%. What happens to your whole life if your wage is cut by 50%? So they didn't save, they saved the auto industry. What does that mean? That meant they saved the CEOs, they saved the board of directors, they saved the investors. They did not save the auto workers, whose conditions and whose lives are being ruined by this. Well, they say there's the health care plan. The health care plan, well, yes, there's a health care plan, and I wouldn't minimize some of the things. If 30 million more people are covered in some way or another, that's good. I think it's good that some of the previously existing condition questions will be handled to some extent, even though there are problems with that were mentioned. I think that's good. But 12 million people are not covered. They can still raise the insurance rates. And the biggest problem is all is the corporations are still there, and the corporations still will control the entire health insurance business. The insurance companies, the for-profit hospitals, the pharmaceutical companies, and so on. So the continuity between Bush and Obama in all of the economic issues is, to me, quite remarkable, and it's one of the things I've tried to talk about in Ohio. Also on the question of the environment. We face an environmental catastrophe in this country. We have to, it's a looming catastrophe going on around us. I mean, it's quite shocking. I would start at the beginning of the summer and say, you know, oh, there's a big environmental crisis, but it's kind of in the distance. And then there was the BP spill in the Gulf. And then there was the fires burning around Moscow, and then there was the flooding in Pakistan, and then summer seems to go on continually. So at this point, it's a little easier to talk to people about the idea of global warming and about the idea of violent weather and about and what we have to do is we have to end the use of coal. We have to end the use of coal, and we have to stop the mountaintop removals on coal. And there's no such thing as clean coal, and we don't want to go mine shale. We don't want to build nuclear power plants. We have to have a green economy, and yet there's this continuity. I can't get the Democrats in Ohio to take on the question of coal. The Democrats don't want to touch that, and the people there can't get the Democrats to take that up. On the war, of course. The war is, to me, and I suppose this comes out of my own personal history as an anti-war activist in the 60s, a conscientious objector. My family was a pacifist family. My father and uncle were pacifists during World War II because they would not go fight in what they saw as a war about capital. And so I think the war, to me, is personally the most important issue in a certain moral way. I mean, they're all important, right? It touches me in a certain personal way. And to think, as was already said here, that we leave an occupying army of 50,000 troops in Iraq, that we have 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. And I was most touched. I was in Cleveland, and a woman in a meeting like this in Cleveland raised her hand in the back of the room, stood up, and she said, you know, I have a hard time telling my friends and my co-workers that your president is bombing my country and killing innocent people. She's a Pakistani American woman. And she said to me, she said, I'm glad to see you always talk about the three wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. And of course, the Pakistan war is the most threatening in a certain way because of the destabilization, I think, now of Pakistan seems to me very terrible. But of course, we should say there's the fourth front in the war too, which is Palestine. And the fact that Palestine remains an occupied territory, and we have to say we want to end the occupation of the Palestinian territories, and we have to point out the role of the United States, its virtually unconditional support for Israel, its uncritical support for Israel, and that we don't find that acceptable. That if we have